we have a credit crisis, a banking crisis, that is when the bottom will be in. The Silicon Valley Bank collapse. Should you tap the brakes or hit the gas with silver? In this Silver Pros video from Thursday, March 9th, Silver Dragons and I discuss what we're doing with our silver stacking right now. The video was recorded ahead of the news over the collapse of Silicon Valley Bank. I want to boil that news down for us silver stackers before relating it to whether it's time to tap the brakes or hit the gas. This bank collapse, the second largest in history, the biggest since Washington Mutual collapsed in 2008, can go one of two ways. First, this could quickly spread throughout the financial markets, a contagion leading into a banking sector crisis that dwarfs what happened in 2008. It could collapse the US dollar and our economy with it. It could plunge us into an inflationary depression. In other words, the big one, people. Or two, this all could be resolved relatively quickly with a nothing to see here FDIC blanket thrown over the whole thing. Business as usual. Everything is awesome. Still. In the first scenario, the Fed will be forced to stop the interest rate hikes and their so-called war on inflation. They would be forced to cut rates, launch a bailout, go back to QE possibly. In fact, economists and business leaders are already calling for a pivot by the Fed in light of Silicon Valley Bank. If that happens, people, hello $50 silver, hello $2,500 gold, and I sure hope you've been stacking all the way up to this point. So that's the first scenario. The second scenario is, well, things calm down. Investors aren't spooked. There's no contagion. A broader run on the banks don't happen. This whole FDIC receivership goes just fine. Everything just calms down. And if that happens, well, then the Fed continues their hawkish rate hikes undeterred. Here, the price of gold and silver drop back from the spike over SVB and continue their downward trajectory. Silver quickly drops into the high teens. The gold drops to, in the 1800s. And this brings us back to whether you should tap the brakes to build some extra cash ahead of a significant silver drop or hit the gas and buy as much as possible right now before precious metals really take off. You watch this video all the way through and tell me in the comments below which way you think we're going to go with SVB and whether or not you're tapping the brakes or hitting the gas. Welcome to Silver Pros, sponsored by SD Bullion. I'm your host, Yankee Stacking, and I'm joined by my co-host, Silver Dragons. I think you said you're hitting the gas, right?
Yeah, when we dipped intraday below $20 an ounce, I made a little bit bigger of a silver purchase than I normally do, and I felt great about it. I mean, we got low premiums right now. We got low spot price, at least relatively, compared to what we've seen over the last couple of years. And so I'm excited. I felt like, hey, I got a good deal. I'm getting more silver for my money than I usually do. And so I feel like it's a good time to be stacking hard.
Did you do that all in one day or did you spread it out a little bit?
I did it all on one day, and I'm waiting to see what happens tomorrow. I'm not sure when this video will post, but there's a few things coming up over the next couple weeks, which could push silver's spot price even lower. So I'm definitely ready to make some more big purchases for sure.
And that, what you just said at the very end, is why I tapped the brakes a little bit.
Okay.
I still scored about 25 ounces over the past 2 weeks. So when it dipped, I bought basically what you're seeing here. I bought some silver dimes and I got the SD Bullion silver rounds, a whole tube of them. So I'm not hitting the brakes hard, and I'm definitely not reversing, but I decided to hold back just a little bit, build some dry powder over the next few days, weeks, and even months in order to be able to go even harder, because I am rather convinced that the downside pressure is going to continue.
Hmm.
I think it's going to go lower.
I certainly think we're going to hit $19 silver just around the corner, maybe $18
Mm-hmm.
silver. I
Mm-hmm.
don't really know how much lower it can go than that. I mean, I think we're
Right.
close to the bottom. I mean, we'll have to wait and see. Of course, anything could happen. Everyone was thinking up another 25 basis point rate hike, then maybe one more, and then that's it. And then Powell comes out, he's like, we're going to be aggressive with this thing. And so, actually, on the FedWatch tool, now it's saying they might do a 75 basis point rate hike at the next meeting just in a few weeks, which is crazy.
And
And
what
so,
will that do to the price of silver?
that'll push silver lower for sure. I think silver is priced in for a 50
Mm-hmm.
basis point increase.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I think if we see that, it'll be kind of, sideways for a little bit, probably down if anything. But then the meeting after that, we'll have to wait and see. I mean, who knows what could happen over these next few months? We'll see how this all plays out. I do think we will see lower silver, but the thing is, Yankee, I feel like if you start buying now, I mean, a lot of us are already buying, but if you start buying regularly now, you can dollar cost average all the way down to the bottom and then dollar cost average on the way up. And then once it gets to $25-$30 an ounce, then you kind of slow down at that point. So,
We discussed this in a prior Silver Pros. We talked about dollar cost averaging, and then I told you that one of the things that I do along with dollar cost averaging is macro time. If there's a
mm,
big shift afoot, if something is happening, either geopolitically, monetary policy, or fiscal policy, something going on, that is when I do what I'm doing now. I ease up a bit. I don't go all in, and because I think it's going to go much lower. And if that happens, I want to have a lot of fiat currency to pile in a bigger way.
so essentially, let's say someone was buying, I'll just throw out a random number, $100 worth of
Hmm.
silver
Hmm.
every paycheck.
Right.
They would maybe go every other paycheck and store a little bit of extra cash because they're waiting for the bottom, right? Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah, I've been buying silver like I showed you here, but I'm buying a little less, expecting to buy a lot more in the weeks and months ahead.
Yeah, and I do see your strategy,
Yeah.
because we know it's probably going to go down, and so hold a little bit back, kind of make bigger purchases as it goes down, and I definitely see that could be a wise
Well,
thing for us stackers to be doing. Now, don't you have another chart here?
I do, because we discussed this back on December 1st when we gave our
Yeah,
silver forecast. Do you remember? It was at the end of season 4.
I remember.
So, right here, we talked about during recessions what happens with silver. They can drop quite a bit. I think it's going to hit 18, and I think it might even break it. There's a lot of support there, but I think once it goes through 18, you're going to see a little bit more purchases on my side.
Yeah, well,
A lot more.
here's the thing: the low last year was in the $17 range,
Hmm.
and I think it was last fall. However, at that time, the premiums on physical silver were like 2 or 3 times higher than they are
That's true.
now.
That's true.
So if we hit 17 or even 18 or even 19 for that matter, you're going to be buying silver cheaper than you've been able to buy it for the last 2, 3 years. I mean, this
Hmm.
is kind of the lowest prices we've seen since
Hmm.
COVID.
I think what's going to happen is the Fed's going to break something
Hmm.
in the economy, the stock market, the bond market, the real estate market, employment. They actually do want to break that, and and the credit that markets. That's the thing that really concerns me the most. If we have a credit crisis, banking crisis, that would be huge. They're going to break something. I'm not exactly sure where it's going to originate, but when they break it, and I think it's going to be within the next 4 months, that is when the bottom will be in. That's when the market's going to panic. That's when the political and market pressures reach a crescendo, and the Fed has to give in and give up. They have to cut rates. If it's a banking crisis, they may even have to go back to QE. So, and then watch out.
We could definitely see an all-time high in the next few years, no doubt.
So, what are we doing? Are we both buying silver?
Yes.
but just at different paces, right?
Yeah, yeah, I'm definitely buying a lot more than I have compared to the last few years. I'm eager to finish my monster box
Oh,
of
yeah.
silver maple leaves.
How's that coming?
So it's coming along. I mean, I think after this last purchase, I only need about 100 more ounces. So
Ooh.
I'm gonna be trying to finish that up over the next month or so. We'll see. And as long as everything works out. Um, yeah, and then who knows what I'm gonna stack after that. That's kind of my goal, and then I got to figure out another goal.
Yeah, I have that monster box done, but I don't have my Britannia mini monster box
Mm,
done. And I'm not sure when I'm going to resume that. My focus right now is rounds, my tier two targets, especially these SD bullion rounds and dimes. I have a guardhouse box that I have to finish up. So silver dimes are high priority.
great thing to be stacking. Honestly, what we're talking about, rounds, junk silver, or constitutional silver coins, these are the pillars for stackers, especially here in the USA.
Right.
All great things to be stacking. Silver bars, those are great as well. So I'm excited for the future. I'm going to be buying all the way till the bottom, Yankee, and I'm going to keep on buying on the way up. So let's have fun with this.
This was fun talking about it too. And while we both agree, I think strategically about the future of silver, our tactics do differ some. So let us know what approach you're taking. And thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time on Silver Pros.
Stack like a pro.